Looking at this first puzzle, this actually comes from a position in an actual game between Sarawan and Costigan in the US Open in 1977. So it's White's move to play, and if we look initially at the board, we can see that this bishop on a3 has a really nasty skewer on both these rooks. But it's White's move to play, and if there's one important rule in chess, is that if the enemy king is in a weak defense and another piece is undefended, that piece being this bishop on a3, then a good tactical combination has a high rate of success. So if we look at what was playing in the game here, but I'll give you a chance to think about what you think is the best move for White here. So the solution is, so this queen here is going to go down this diagonal here to a8, hit the enemy king with a check, and there's only one move possible here. King has to go to d7. Play continues. White is now going to go and slide over here this queen to c6. Again, the king has really only one choice, has to go back to c8, and the queen slides over here to the left to a6, forking this bishop over here by delivering this check to the king. Now it really doesn't matter where the king will go in this position, but play does continue, that the queen captures this bishop here, and actually black resigns to this position after being down a piece and being down in pawns too. The game right here actually comes from another tournament in 1975 in Seattle between Sarawan and Hessen. And so in this position here, it's White's move to play. Can you see the best move for White here? Either checkmate the king or to win material. Okay, so I'll give you a chance to think about it. So here's the solution. Now it might be tempting to play queen to f5 right here, but that would not be a very good move because it appears you might be forking this knight with the potential checkmate coming here to h7 because of the attack of both the knight and the queen, but black could respond by placing his knight right here, very nicely placed on f6 and defending this vulnerable h7 square. However, White can play a little bit more of much more aggressive move by playing the knight captures h7, and in play black goes on to capture the knight. Queen comes to f5, excuse me, forking the knight by checking the king here. King has to retreat, and White is able to capture. And as a result, White was able to exchange knights with black in addition to winning this h7 pawn. Next right here is actually a classical one that took place over 100 years ago in 1886 in London between two grandmasters at the time, Lipschutz and Schalep. And here it's White's move to play, and we can see that black's king is in a very, very dangerous position, being lodged in this corner of h8. And can you find the move for White to take advantage of that position and finish off black? So in the actual game, Lipschutz played a very, very strong c4, and actually in the game black resigned after c4 was played, and we can see that this move is actually very, very powerful. For one, White's queen has the assistance of this bishop on b3 to attack this very vulnerable g8 square, and really black has very, very almost no response here because checkmate isn't inevitable. Black could respond potentially by capturing this rook, but that would do very, very little because the queen is still eyeing down this g8 square. Black could always capture the queen, but that prevents the rook that was here on c8 from defending the knight, and white can come over and capture this knight, and as a result checkmate is still going to still happen in both situations. So this comes from a tournament in 1952 in the USSR between Toulouse and Samagin, and in this position we look white is quite vulnerable here with these passed pawns in the A and B file here, but can you find a good move for black to have an easy victory in the upcoming endgame? So here's the solution here, which I thought was very, very clever. What black is doing is black sacrifices queen to g1 right here. Now the king here is vulnerable because he only has one option. He has to capture this queen, and as a result the knight is able to capture this bishop on e2 and fork over the queen and the king. The king is forced to move in play. The king moved here, and the knight was able to capture the queen and go up one piece of material, and in this position white resigns. So the game in this puzzle series, the fifth one being the hardest, and it comes from a New York tournament in 1987 between Serwan and Zaltzman, and it's white's turn to play. You see the best move for white here to either win material or to finish off black. So what white's going to do is white's going to first sacrifice his bishop here on h3 and capture this pawn here on e6. Then black's response is going to capture, obviously with the bishop can't capture with the king because the knight here is still guarding it. Now comes a very, very clever move here, which was kind of hard to see, but the queen is going to come in here, and it's going to be a queen sacrifice, and black's king only has one option. He can't escape to this square right here on g6 because the knight is still guarding it, so he has to capture the queen, which he does. Afterwards the knight can come in here, capture the bishop, and fork over the queen and the king. The king here is now forced to move here. Now you can come over here and capture. Now in the game black went on to come over here and cover this pawn right here on d5 that's hanging, that's being attacked by the knight, but afterwards the knight just slides over here to e8, is now attacking this pawn, and in this point of the game black, being down in 2 pawns, resigned. Hopefully you got that puzzle because it was kind of difficult. If you did, give yourself a pat on the back.